In every state in the land, there are prisoners so dangerous and so disruptive that they need to be shut away. Shut away in a maximum security prison.
This isn't a prison that the inmates run. We run this prison.
Inmates who get sent to a supermax facility, like Minnesota's Oak Park Heights, are the baddest of the bad. Here, every inmate's movement is observed in the electronic nerve center of the prison.
Send the passenger down, 2 rear, 1 staff, 1 inmate.
In this supermax, prisoners step out of line at their own peril. But they can be out of their cells from dawn to dusk if they agree to be rehabilitated.
To us, it makes good sense to try to do everything we can to change the behavior that brought them here.
At Oklahoma's Supermax facility, H Unit, the main method of control is containment. Prisoners live in a subterranean world, locked down in their cells 23 hours a day.
As far as rehabilitation, I don't really do a whole lot of worrying with that.
If he has a weapon, we'll use our electronic shield, which puts out 50,000 volts.
Maximum security prison. How to contain and control America's most dangerous criminals. Oklahoma's answer was to open H Unit in 1991, located near the Midwest town of McAllister. No one's ever escaped from this institution.
It is a multi-walled cement structured building. It's underground. There's a lot of dirt around the outside perimeter of it. Never say never, but it would be highly difficult for somebody to get out of H Unit.
You are literally underground. You can see no trees, no grass. You can see no land horizons. You cannot see any sunsets. You cannot see any sunrises. You're buried alive in an underground cell, 23 and 24 hours a day.
Oh, I wouldn't say buried alive, but it is hard. It's a hard time. There's no way around that, but it's meant to be hard time.
Yeah, you get used to it. It's like an animal in a cage kind of gets used to his cage. That's all this is. You know what I mean? An animal in a cage, that's all.
H Unit was built adjacent to the main prison complex here at Oklahoma State Penitentiary after 100 inmates went on a rampage in December 1985. 3 guards were stabbed and 7 others held hostage for 18 hours.
We had some officers that received serious injuries, physical injuries that lasted them the rest of their lives. We learned a lot there that we needed stricter control of the baddest of the bad inmate population, that we had total control of their movement to and from the areas that they had to go to.
What that means is that nothing is left to chance here. Whenever an inmate leaves his cell unit, there are always 2 guards present. And no matter how short the journey, a thorough search of all clothing for weapons and contraband is always conducted.
The inmate has 24 hours a day to figure out something to try to manipulate you with. It's real easy to become complacent because of all the security down there. You think you're safe beyond safe, and one mistake could cost you your life.
Outer.
It's virtually a non-contact unit for staff. We can move an inmate to the shower, to the yard, and without ever being face to face with that inmate, without bars between us.
Double murderer Teddy Wilkins has only a short distance to walk to the yard for his daily hour of exercise. But he's still restrained with handcuffs behind his back and leg irons on his ankles.
I came in with 12 years. You know, I caught all this time in the penitentiary, man, you know. So, I didn't kill nobody on the streets.
Teddy Wilkins was jailed for an armed holdup, but life on the inside can exact its own sentence. He's now serving 2 life terms and a further 60 years imprisonment for murdering 2 inmates at 2 different prisons.
Self-defense. I had issue with another convict, and it went all the way. I'm not proud of it, I'm not happy about it, it's just something done. I don't regret it neither. I did what I felt I had to do. I'm not a kill freak or anything.
In this Supermax, high security risk prisoners have no direct contact with any other person other than guards, ever.
I think this whole solitary thing makes it worse, because when I went out of state and I was around people, I didn't know how to react to conversate with them. When they said something, I would take it wrong.
We don't ask them to come here. With their misbehavior and management problems, they earn their way here.
Danny.
The most troublesome prisoners are housed in the administrative segregation unit. Here, cell counts are done up to 10 times a day. 3 of the 50 inmates are on suicide watches every 15 minutes.
Let me do my count first.
Some of these are very bad. We got guys over here that have killed their cell partners.
Watch.
When we do our daily counts, they are known to throw stuff on you. Urine, feces, mixture of both. It just depends. We got to make sure that there's nothing that's the individual can have in their hands or anything like that that can possibly cause harm to the officers on the run.
They can make a weapon out of just about anything. They can take a tray. They're served a tray. It's a plastic tray. They can heat that up and then cut them a piece of plastic out of that tray in the shape of a knife, pointed tip on it. Take the plastic toothbrush, melt the end of it and get it hot, and then take the end out of a razor that they're allowed to have for shaving purposes. Take that little razor and insert it in that hot plastic tip of the toothbrush. Obviously that razor you can cut real easy with that.
There have been 6 stabbings and 1 cell murder during the past 2 years in H unit. A casualty rate the prison management says is not helped by budget pressures that force the majority of prisoners, unless they're in the segregation unit, to be double-celled.
We try to screen to make sure that we don't have enemies in cells together. Sometimes they create an enemy just by being locked in a cell with him. We try to separate those, but we can't be 100% successful at that.
Oh no, that's another story. I've had some inmates in my cell that's I don't know. I think they were placed there strategically to maybe cause harm or to get me to go off on them or something. And some of them was very bad.
Johnny Tallbear, serving a life sentence without parole for murder, has just been released back to the general population of the prison after 3 years in H Unit.
I describe H Unit as barbaric and heinous. It's a unit that should not have ever been built, not here anywhere in the United States of America.
Life inside H Unit can be a living hell for those inmates who can't handle this level of control. Each unit has an electronic nerve center. No cell door opens without its involvement, and no human movement happens without its being aware. Despite the control in this prison, though, inmates still find their own ways to connect with each other. They even have their own sign language. These prisoners may be denied human contact. They may be denied fresh air and sunlight. They may be denied most of the things that make us human. But they still find a way to survive the restrictions they face every day. Despite the prisoners' ingenuity, H Unit does house Oklahoma's most dangerous prisoners, and they treat them accordingly. There is no way this Supermax prison's about to relax its hardline stance.
They want this and they want that, and they're not going to get it. But it is tough. But it's meant to be tough. And they know that.
Inmates refuse to cuff up. Let's get him against the wall again. Put him down on the ground. Handcuff, leg iron. I'll give you the command. Stand him up. Put him against the wall. Listen to my command. Go. Get the cuffs on.
There are no second chances inside H Unit. You play by the rules, or you pay the price. And if inmates get violent, they attract the attention of the Correctional Emergency Response Team.
Put him against the wall. If he has a weapon, we'll use our electronic shield, which puts out 50,000 volts. The shield man will enter that. We'll go to the cell door. We'll fire this off a couple times, let him see it. If he still doesn't comply with our orders, we'll enter the cell. Shield man will pin him. Use this, and we'll take it from there.
Security considerations dominate every facet of H Unit's operation. Any disruptive behavior is slammed hard. Anytime a prisoner leaves his cell block, he's in restraints. And in this prison, educational and job programming don't exist at all.
Let them try to correct themselves instead of just throw them away and forget about them and lock them up in an underground cell. Give them some activities, give them some social activities, something where they can better themselves, schooling, some kind of education, some kind of work.
They don't deserve a job if they're on H Unit. They've proven themselves to be management problems or some type of problem, and we do not want to have problem makers out down here.
Prisons are not set up for rebuilding. They're set up to break you down, to keep you down, and to destroy that spirit in you so you'll just become almost non-existent.
Terry Kinney, a former heroin addict, is in prison for 100 years and 1 day for his second armed holdup offense.
Have I changed? Am I an armed robber or a drug addict today? No. And I haven't been for years now. But I still did something 20 years ago that a debt had to be paid for. Now, I might not like having to pay it. I don't want to pay it. And I think I'm ready to move on. But if they want me to do that 100 years in a day, I've got to do it.
Terry Kinney's grim existence is lightened once a month when his parents and sister get to visit him here in the non-contact visiting area. His family is separated from him by a 2-inch thick bulletproof glass window and bars.
I'll get you in a second. How you doing, son? All right.
This is not good. This is alien.
So have you been busy this morning?
Yeah, I got up, read my Bible, went to church myself, and watched TV, and what I do
every day?
Same thing, you know.
When he first went into prison, I was just destroyed at first. But it hasn't kept me away from him. It hurts. We're really close. We've always have been all his life.
I haven't even got to touch you the whole time you've been here. And I love you.
I know you do, and I love you.
You can come home and take care of your mom and daddy.
Can't stop. 20 years in here, and you all stuck with me.
For me to come and have to see this, it's real hard. So I don't come as often as I should and want to because it's hard not to be able to reach out and touch him.
This place has almost got me. Mentally, it'll eat you. If you one minute, let your guard down in here. Mentally, it'll destroy you.
There's been a change in me. Jesus saved my soul, set my captive spirit free. There's been a change in me. This world can't understand.
These prisoners, who ask that their faces not be shown, don't get to have family visits. They can, however, get a special privilege here in H Unit if they are one of its 147 prisoners awaiting execution on death row. They get to go to church. But this is no ordinary church. The preacher's separated from his flock by bars.
I heard a word yesterday morning talking about the Lord accepting the good and the bad, and I thought, boy, I'm glad he accepted the bad. He accepts the good, bad, and the ugly, don't he? Amen. I've got a peace in my heart. It's hard. We do services in other prisons and in other parts of this prison where we have contact and we're able to fellowship more like in a regular service, and it's hard. And of course they're handcuffed and they're chained, and there's a constant, of course, reminder that it's like it is. Oh, there's a word from the Lord when I get still enough to hear it. That'll take me through the coldest, darkest night.
I'm in here for a capital murder charge, first-degree murder, and I'm in here sentenced to death.
That everything's gonna be all right. Sing with me.
I'm here for a murder, and I was sentenced to death from Oklahoma County in Oklahoma City.
Shout to the Lord, all the earth, let him sing. Power and majesty, praise to her name.
John Hooker, sentenced to death for a murder he committed during a bank holdup, has been on death row now for 5 years as he fights for his life through the appeals process. His execution date is yet to be set.
Hey, Hooker.
Yeah.
Let me get a book on the Declaration of Independence.
Okay.
I'd like to check that out.
Alrighty.
He's one of only 2 inmates on death row allowed out of his cell every day to work here in the law library.
You're welcome.
Trained as a paralegal, he assists fellow inmates facing execution to prepare their appeals 2 weeks before their court appearances. In Oklahoma, every execution always occurs at 2 minutes past midnight. That fate is never far from John Hooker's mind.
My cell partner, the guy that I lived with for 5 years, was executed. And I had never felt that pain before. And I've had other guys executed that I knew but I wasn't as personally connected to them as I was with John Castro.
While John Hooker was working, John Castro was moved to a holding cell 60 days before his execution. Hooker never got to say goodbye.
It was hard, just knowing where he was going, and knowing that he would have to sit off in that place for 60 days, looking at his demise. For 60 days, you sit in that little room there now. Damn, man, just count down the days until you die. I certainly face that. Being where I am, I do face that.
John Hooker discovered a farewell message awaiting him when he returned to his cell the day John Castro was moved.
When I went in from work that evening, he had drawn a little drawing on the wall as a little Indian, and he was peeking from above a wall, and he had a little teardrop in his eye, and under the bottom he had written, "Goodbye, old friend." Yeah, that was kind of touching.
One way or another, I'll be off death row within a year. I'll either be executed, or I'll have my case modified, or a new trial.
Jim Hale, a former oil field worker, was involved in a bank heist that went murderously wrong. He didn't pull the trigger, but received the death penalty for being an accessory to murder. After 15 years on death row, he's reconciled to his fate.
I've seen executions take place. I mean, I've not physically been there, but I mean, I've seen the guys leave the unit. So it's just one of those things that it's reality. So you have to deal with it.
Jim Hale also has a privileged job working here as a paralegal in the law library.
Okay, now this we're appealing whenever we filed that application for your freedom of information that the FBI withheld when you went to trial. Guys on death row have pretty much just resigned to the fact that this is where we're going to be until something happens. So I'm at the end of the road, in effect. It's just something that's there. I mean, you don't need to discuss it.
On the night of each execution, the condemned man walks his final walk. From the holding cell to the execution chamber, escorted by the warden and a restraint team.
It's not a natural thing to do, but it's the law, and I've to be able to have the job I've got and the responsibilities got, it's something I have to do.
At least 99 men have been executed at Oklahoma State Penitentiary this century. On the fateful night, both the condemned man's family and that of his victim are invited to witness the execution by lethal injection. Media are also present.
He goes out a whole lot more dignified and humane than what he did to put him there. The victims that they've murdered didn't get some of the choices that this fella's getting,
Children laughing in a land far away, in a land where there's a difference between night and day. Buried alive, in a few more days, they'll bury me dead.
Ron Williamson's free now, after enduring 12 years in H Unit as an innocent man. 9 of those years were on death row, where he escaped execution by just 5 days.
I had been to an execution meeting where the warden was getting ready to ask me where I wanted my body sent to, and that was an eerie feeling.
The years behind bars took their toll. Williamson dropped 90 pounds in weight while he was in H Unit. The former Yankees baseball pitcher was wrongly convicted of murdering a 21-year-old woman, Deborah Carter, in the small Oklahoma town of Ada on December 7th, 1982.
I never murdered Deborah Carter. I never murdered her.
Williamson's lawyer, Mark Barrett, forced the reopening of the case with the help of Barry Scheck, a former O.J. Simpson attorney and founder of the Innocence Project. They proved with DNA evidence that Williamson was never at the scene of the crime.
When you guys came in there and told me that the DNA had come back negative and that I was no longer that character that they had portrayed me as for 12 years, I was extremely happy.
What did you do?
I cried. I was so happy. Tears of joy. Just, it was the most poignant I've felt in my entire life.
Surviving 9 years on H Unit's death row has scarred Ron Williamson deeply. And while it's the only place in the prison where inmates get to exercise 6 at a time, Williamson avoided the yard.
There were vicious arguments, vicious fights, attempted murders. I've been threatened with my life so many times. I didn't back down. I fought, and that left people knowing that I'd fight. When they built McAllister, they had that in mind for you. You are going to suffer some pain while you're here, and large amounts of it.
That facility functioned for Ron Williamson as mental torture, and I suspect it does to many other people.
It's pretty tough. It really is. The public wants that. Oklahoma's always been pretty tough, but as far as the security part of it, no, I don't see that relaxing. I sure don't. It seems like whenever they do relax it, something will happen.
I accept that there is a need for prisons from which a person has no possibility of escape. I do not accept that there is a need for prisons that deprive people of their humanity, and that is what ends up happening with a facility like H Unit.
There are no second chances in H Unit. This super maximum security prison isn't about to soften its hardline attitude to penal control. In Oklahoma, H Unit is real hard power.
If there is an afterlife, that hopefully I can qualify to rent out some piece of heaven for myself other than go through the hell on this earth that I've been going through for the last 12 years.
Snuggled into the lush prairie grass near Stillwater, Minnesota, lies another Supermax prison. Separated by 700 miles and a huge chasm in operating philosophy. The contrast between Minnesota's Oak Park Heights and Oklahoma's H Unit couldn't be greater.
This place was built on a foundational belief that if a person comes to prison and truly wants to make a change in their life, that we have to give them an opportunity to do that, and why wouldn't we? The people that are here are not here for singing too loud in the choir. They are here for very violent offenses. Over 60% have committed murder. 80 to 100 of our inmates have 30 years before they get their first hearing. That's why these places can be very dangerous to work in. That's why you have to do different kinds of things to try to get those thoughts out of people's minds and have them look forward to something positive every day.
Warden Jim Bruton presides over a management program that is unique to any super maximum security prison in America. Oak Park Heights offers prisoners a choice. No matter what their crime, if they accept a job or participate in an educational program, they can be out of their cells from 7 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. And if they refuse that option?
Well, then they can spend most of their time in a segregation unit where they're locked down 23 hours a day, or they can spend most of their time in a special housing unit where they're locked down 21 hours a day.
There's no middle ground here at all. Either you stay focused on your program or you're slammed. You're in a cell, and that's it.
Cameron Dodson has spent 20 of his 37 years in maximum security jails, mostly for armed holdups he committed to feed his drug habit. Dodson knows only too well the brutal reality of life inside.
When I very first went to the penitentiary, I had a problem. There was another convict I was 17 years old, and he was looking at me, you know, kind of weird.
Fearing a sexual attack, Cameron Dodson approached the leaders of Aryan Brotherhood, the white supremacist gang that dominated inmates' lives at Washington State's Walla Walla prison. They gave the novice prisoner a butcher knife and a choice.
To either kill the dude or be a punk. Meaning either kill him or be a sissy or something, you know. And so I stabbed the guy right in front of the tower, you know. He survived, yeah. But he never looked at me crazy again.
Cameron Dodson eventually fell out with the Aryan Brotherhood over a drug deal that went sour. But here at Oak Park Heights, drugs aren't driving his life, education is.
That's it. I'm almost done with my AA, and I'm setting up a bachelor's program right now. I'm going to major in political science with a pre-law emphasis, and then I'm going to go to law school when I get out.
Maybe that education, maybe the literacy programming that the individual's involved in, or that college degree will prevent them from committing a crime on the outside.
The prisoners who have taken the option to study get to walk unescorted to their classes. Their freedom of movement, however, does come at a price. They are pat-searched and scanned by metal detectors whenever they leave one unit for another.
We're always on the lookout for weapons and contraband. There really is no other way to detect contraband than by scans, body searches, metal detector use. It helps keep the neighborhood safe.
This could be any college library. It's not, though. These students are the toughest and most dangerous criminals in Minnesota. Yet they want for nothing here at Oak Park Heights. All the best-selling books and magazines are available, along with a selection of over 2,000 videos. Computers are also accessible, but access to the internet is denied.
I'll check this out.
Sure.
Librarian Sandy Vadnais has a body alarm she can activate if her safety is threatened. A SWAT team will arrive within seconds, but Sandy's never had to push the button.
We have less trouble every day than a typical high school class. We have not had a major incident in the education unit in 13 years.
So these are traditional Native American symbols, right? Okay.
I still got to put some more color.
But you realize how modern that looks, don't you?
Bernie Marks has been teaching art at Oak Park Heights now for 10 years. There's no guard in sight.
It's a question of trust, really. You know, if you show you trust them, they will trust you. It works out. Never had any problems.
That's good. If you have a contrast. Actually, you might not need to go as dark with your background on yours.
I've actually seen people do a full U-turn in this class. They discover for the first time, probably, that they are a human being with creative potential. They own it. You know, they don't have to steal it, they don't have to rob for it, it's not forced upon them, they're not told to be, they're not told they're stupid and they can't do anything. They actually discover that they have things, and that is the transforming element, really. It's a question of self-worth, feeling good about themselves, and most of these guys, as far as I'm concerned, have never felt good about themselves, ever.
At Oak Park Heights, unlike H Unit, high-risk prisoners like Keith Groove still get out of their cells to work, so long as they behave. Groove, a former prison officer, is serving a life sentence for murdering his wife. He and the other 14 workers here in the prison kitchen are all killers. Despite their crimes, these inmates work an 8-hour day in an environment surrounded by an array of potential weapons. Work in the kitchen, though, doesn't go unnoticed. Through this one-way glass, a guard in the adjacent security bubble constantly observes everything and everyone on the kitchen floor, assisted by security cameras. All kitchen knives are checked out from the store and then tethered with a padlock chain to a table.
It can be an issue. You need to be aware of where those tin lids are, where the knives are, who has the knives, that the knives remained locked.
Inmates like murderer Zach Persons don't get to work here in the kitchen until they've been in the industry or education units for 6 months and had a positive assessment. But the guards never relax.
I worry about my safety anywhere in the facility. I wear a body alarm, so I can just press this. I'll have a squad response in case of an assault or if there's a fight. You are touching their person. You do touch them. They will try sexual innuendos to see if you'll bite, and you just have to remain firm, fair, and consistent with them and with the whole general population.
And this isn't a prison that the inmates run. We run this prison.
Pivotal to that control is the electronic nerve center of the prison, the master control room.
Master control. Rear please, they want to go to space. 10-4. Secure the front open to rear. I'm going to send the passenger down, 2 rear, 1 staff, 1 inmate.
All movement is observed here from the security cameras that sweep every inch of the prison. All doors and elevators can be opened or shut from this facility.
We literally can take control of all the institution and run everything from in master control, or one part of the institution, each unit we can control. We give the power to the units, we can take the power away from the units.
The telephones are monitored, incoming and outgoing mail is monitored. There are cameras everywhere. They know who you're talking to, who you're hanging with. It's very high-tech, big on intelligence. Everything's recorded, everything's filmed, everything's listened to.
Tapes roll 24 hours a day in the Supermax, recording every phone conversation any inmate makes with the outside world.
Taking it off and then throwing
In the warden's daily management meeting, information gathered by the prison's intelligence unit is invaluable in understanding what's really going on behind the walls.
He's the guy that's involved in those murders with those 5 guys. I was told in the mental health unit yesterday that he is living in an absolute imaginary world. He doesn't get it, he doesn't understand it, and at some point he's going to realize that they're probably going to change his second-degree murder to a charge of first-degree murder. So,
monitoring him as we have, we kind of get a little bit of a different aspect. He's told his mom, "I'm going to probably be doing 40 years here because they're going to be trying to indict me on first degree." So
well, maybe he's showing different on what he's saying on the phone and what he's telling the mental health staff.
That's what I believe.
There's room for
a potential violent outcome here. But it seems like the minute something occurs, they're there so quick. It's almost like you would stop and say to yourself, this cell is bugged. You know what I'm saying? That's what crosses your mind. You know, I mean, if you fart in here, before the smell get out the room, the administration know you broke wind.
Walter Anderson, a former Golden Gloves boxer in the super heavyweight class, is serving out a 40-year sentence for cocaine importation.
I did good. I made a lot of money. I'd say a few mil.
Walter Anderson was Colombian drug boss Pablo Escobar's main man in America. When Anderson was finally arrested in 1991 after 5 years on the run, $3 million worth of his property and assets were confiscated. Walter Anderson has spent most of his life in and out of jail. He belonged to a Harlem street gang at 11. It didn't take long to be influenced by what he saw around him on the hard streets of Harlem.
I've always been fascinated with the drug life. When I was a kid, I watched one of the biggest drug dealers in New York City's car. I used to hang out on 116th Street, and he pulled his car up one day, and I watched his car. And I saw what he had and knew how he'd gotten it. And it impressed me right there.
By 13, Anderson had already been questioned for a murder. The street gang he was in was subcontracted by the mafia.
He went from just selling drugs on the street corner to kidnapping rival drug dealers, extorting rival drug dealers, murder for hire, you know, and we had a good name for ourselves.
At Oak Park Heights, Anderson has fallen foul of the rigid rules that drive life in the Supermax prison. He's locked down 21 hours of every day now in the special housing unit after losing his privileged job working in the kitchen.
You know what happened? I would go back to the unit to call my attorney, to call the stockbroker, stuff like that, every day at a certain time, like at 10 o'clock. Then what would end up happening was I would basically forget to punch out. Then sometimes when they checked my cards, they saw that there was times where I would go to the foreman and say something, then he would write it in and correct it, and there was times I didn't. Then I didn't.
Not that Walter Anderson's complaining too much.
In all honesty, since I've been over there, I kind of like this. I exercise in the morning, I go to the yard, I run, I come back, we go to the gym, come back, take a shower, and I ain't got to work. If I was good at working, I would never came to jail in the first place. You know, I'm an equal opportunist, an entrepreneur, and this makes it difficult. So I'm not all that hopped up about working, but like I say, I go along with the program.
Those inmates, like Earl McMore, who don't go along with the program, end up here in the segregation unit, where, like H Unit in Oklahoma, they're locked down 23 hours a day. McMore is helmeted for his own protection when escorted outside for an hour's exercise each day. He's handcuffed and shackled throughout that hour. Prisoners can work their way out of the segregation unit to a less restricted security status with good behavior.
Good behavior will get you good rewards. Bad behavior will be severe penalties.
In that type of situation where he's unrestrained and we have to go in, then we have the A-team there, or the security squad for backup.
The inmate up in room 202 out of control. He's brandishing a weapon, threatening staff. Okay, you suit up.
Staff in the segregation unit as well as the security squad received some additional training in chemical irritant use, cell entries using a shield type thing for staff protection.
The security squad uses a capsicum spray to contain disruptive prisoners. The spray makes an inmate's eyes water, irritates his skin, and affects his breathing. It's enough to disorient the prisoner until he can be contained. The capsicum spray's side effects can last for up to an hour, but will disappear within 2 minutes if the victim is placed under a shower. Oak Park Heights is no candy-coated Alcatraz. This super maximum security jail is regarded by prison insiders as one of the most secure in America. Its methods of control are as effective as any other penitentiary in the land. It may offer inmates the opportunity to improve themselves, but it's still hard time.
There's nothing cool about being in jail for the rest of your life. It's nothing cool about me sitting here giving you this interview from a penitentiary. This ain't cool to me. Cool to me is being in the streets bouncing one of my grandkids on my knee. You know what I'm saying? That's cool. It's not cool to have to stop and think, will I die in here?
Here, prisoners may get to work. They may get to study. They may get to play. But they play by the rules, or else.
Yes, we are given those choices, and I think choices are things that we need for a healthier relationship with ourselves and with the people around us.
Well, we're pretty close here, Al.
Okay, I've got a document over here that's a court decision. We can help.
Thinking creatively rather than violently is a radical departure for Alejandro Garcia, who edits the prison's newspaper. He spent 28 years of his life behind bars, much of it until he came to Oak Park Heights as a key player in the gang, the Mexican Mafia. Garcia's life on the inside has been brutal.
The mentality just became one of pure survival. And in that kind of a situation, it's dog eat dog. And sad to say, I had to learn to be that way myself. That involved a lot of brutality, a lot of reputation building.
Garcia was one of 4 ringleaders behind the brutal Santa Fe prison riot in New Mexico in 1980. For 3 violent days, inmates took control of the prison. The riot was over. 33 people lay dead. 156 were stabbed. It was an experience, Garcia says, that changed him forever.
I'd had enough of that kind of lifestyle, that my giving somebody an order or my giving my influences towards it, the killing of somebody, was not who I really was and who I really wanted to be in life. And I didn't want to spend the rest of my life in a cage.
The pen now challenges Alejandro Garcia more than the sword. Studying for a bachelor's degree, he believes the programming available at Oak Park Heights has been critical in reinforcing a positive attitude in himself and towards others.
But you know what you did. You know, you have to make amends for it inside of yourself. You have to find that person that you really want to be, that person that you really are capable of being, and bring that person out.
Did you ever
these hardened criminals, Oak Park Heights offers them a way forward no matter their crime. The music they write is not of violence. It's not of survival. It's about dreaming of another life, another way, a world they left behind.
Whatever you may have committed in the past, if you can make something better of that person that did that back then you obviously you come out a better person.
Did you ever watch the leaves as they drifted off the trees? Did you ever?
When you look at a high security prison like this and look at 17 years of operation, and you can say there's never been a homicide here, there's never been an escape here or an attempted escape, that we have virtually no drugs, that we have virtually no weapons in this institution, that we have no significant gang activity. It works here, and it makes good sense to try to do everything we can to change the behavior that brought them here. And you start that out by the way you treat people.
Towards that new life formed, then you had a miracle. They're all around, yes, you've had a miracle. They're easily found. Yes, you've had a